I absolutely love the issue of Batman Dark Patterns that just came out, issue number 7, which is the start of a brand new arc in the series. I skipped the last one just because I skimmed it a little bit, and I really wasn't into it that much. The villain wasn't that appealing to me. But this one has such a strong start, and it brings back an old group of villains that I did not think was going to be involved with this series. So immediately we start off again with that gorgeous coloring that we've seen throughout the first arc of the series. And in a dark room, Bruce is sitting in a chair, plunging his wrists into buckets of ice and wrapping his arms and wrists, tending to his overall injuries. And similar to the first arc, where we had every single issue kind of starting with the same monologue, but it's more cynical. It's kind of fed up sounding. As Bruce says, "Gotham City, I think we need to talk. It's becoming hard not to notice a pattern. You have always suffered fires. A dense population, cold nights, and high crime rate will do that to you. But these last few months, it feels like your skies have plumed with smoke every single night. It was a fire that created the Wound Man. It's starting to feel like you want to burn me out, like you see the Batman as a fever to be exterminated by raising the temp. Pareidolia is the name for when we perceive patterns that aren't there, like seeing faces in the clouds, or a man on the moon. The very first thing we have to be able to recognize as humans is other people, all the way back to when we're infants. We see the faces of our caregivers. What this can lead to over time is our minds becoming overactive. It's what's led to so many of our myths and legends throughout humanity. A big part of being a detective is being able to see past that pareidolia. You have to be able to not assign malevolence to nature, but tonight there is another fire in Gotham, and I have had enough. So already, just from that little monologue, that little opening, I feel like Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman, as well as Pharrell the colorist. I mean, honestly, the whole creative team, I just feel like they're coming out swinging. It's such a strong, bold statement to start off the arc, and automatically carries a little bit of oomph to it, which is why I wanted to cover it again. But after that, we then jump to another part of Gotham, which I don't think I've ever heard mentioned in any other series. I can't tell if this is a brand new location, or if they're just working it into the story, but the way it's utilized in this is so interesting. So this part of Gotham is called the Rookery, and this is where that fire is taking place. Unfortunately, because of the state of the Rookery, all the cops and firefighters are just standing around, smoking, talking, not in any rush to go into the Rookery to stop it. And you see this part of Gotham, and it is just absolutely surrounded by all these corporations, these large towers, skyscrapers, you know, the usual sights in Gotham. And down below you just see this kind of almost treehouse-like structure, where you see all these little buildings, all these little roofs and huts with connecting bridges, shoddy handmade platforms, connecting like branches between the houses, forming their own little makeshift neighborhood that really doesn't look safe at all. It's kind of like if you've ever played the Amazing Spider-Man game, when the inmates kind of take over New York and they're all occupying the rooftops. This is basically what this looks like. Now the story here is that this is a neighborhood part of old Gotham that hasn't really been built up to match the rest of the city as it stands today. It was half rebuilt with very cheap materials decades back after an earthquake, and the city just never really bothered to go back and fix it properly, so it's just kind of existed like this, and the citizens have kind of taken over and built things their way. This neighborhood does not exist the way you would expect. There are no street names, no address numbers, nothing. This part of town is simply devastated. No water, no electricity, no clear path for navigation. And so what Batman has to do when he jumps down here is start asking some of these homeless, devastated people, drug addicts and people with severe mental illness, and he's relying on them for guidance to get to this fire. And first thing he hears when he's down here is a homeless man by a fire who tells him, "I'm eating a rat." And Batman says nothing, just staring at him. The man lunges forward. "Did you not hear me? I'm eating a rat." Batman just stands there and says, "Okay, I have an astrophysics degree," the man says. "The fire. What's the fastest route?" Schwarzschild cosmology theorizes that the entire observable universe is inside of a black hole. The theory is that that's why our universe is always expanding. I never subscribed to the theory, not till I moved here. Just to get back on my feet, I told myself. And from a bird's eye angle, we see this strange part of town that Batman's now found himself in, as the man tells him, "You're in the black hole now. Just follow your feet. The singularity pulls everything to the center in the end." And no, Batman looks to him confused. "No what?" The man looks back at him with a condescending grin. "I see you looking at my rat. Get your own." Batman then uses his tools to navigate through the city, scaling the sides of the buildings, following the smoke, until he reaches this building with all the windows blown out, basically crumbling to pieces, and he sees that it's an abandoned laundromat where the fire was actually started by one of the laundry machines. Immediately he calls in Gordon, saying, "You need to send a CSI squad. There's a body." And we see this corpse that's been burnt to a crisp inside the machine that started the fire. Eventually, this body makes its way to Dr. Sarika's lab, after Gordon has to basically haul the officers there himself to get them to do their jobs and head in. And with our trio of investigators now observing this body on the slab, Dr. Sarika says, "Just terrible what's happened. Look at this. Do you see? Notice how the arms are bent inward. Gordon takes off his jacket. The poor guy was trying to hide his face, likely from the flames. Dr. Sarika interrupts. No, it happens post-mortem, at least in a fire. The tendons in the arms actually shrivel up in the heat, pulling the body into what looks like a boxer's pose. Also, judging by the pelvis, this is a she, although it's hard to make out anything with this. You know, fire isn't really good at erasing existence, getting rid of a body, but it's really good at erasing all the evidence that you need for forensics. I'm gonna need more time. The next morning we see Alfred awakening Bruce in his bed, saying, "Your isolate with seasonal greens reduction is served." And with a groan, Bruce gets out of bed. "You can just say nutritional shake, Alfred." "Master Bruce, if you will have me blending up such foul concoctions, at least let me name them myself." "Successful night?" "No. A frustrating one, Alfred. A body stuffed into the dryer of a laundromat and then burned." Alfred then does a little bit of quick thinking and says, "A laundromat? That sounds familiar." "To the library, Batman." This time Bruce follows Alfred's lead, putting on a robe and sitting in the library, listening to his butler read. "I remember perusing the old gangs of Gotham at some length." He starts flipping through the pages of the book, saying, "I believe it was somewhere around... yes. After World War II, when young men returned home with weapons training and untreated PTSD, they found their country in the depths of a post-war recession. With a lack of career prospects, many turned to criminal activities, mostly those that involved intimidating and extorting their neighbors. It was typically Irish gangs operating out of the Rookery and using family-owned laundromats as criminal fronts. Many rumors of how these gangs operated floated around over time. One such rumor suggested that they were partial to making examples of those that wouldn't do business with them. Those individuals would be escorted to the laundromat and have their heads dunked into a bucket of bleach, and only until the skin slid from the skull would the victim be hung up as a warning to all the others. The appearance of this bloody mess of loosened skin was suggested to be the origin of the gang's name, the Red Hood Gang. Bruce then sits back in his chair, astonished. "What? I've encountered them before. How did I not know this?" "I believe, Master Bruce, that you may have encountered a modern organization attempting to capitalize on the violent reputation of the old one." Bruce then immediately heads back to the Rookery, but on his way there, he notices a woman walking down an alley with a man following behind her with a knife. As this man takes out a bone mask with horns on it, he heads down into the dark, saying, "Time to die for Satan." Just then, Batman plunges down in front of him before he can do anything, and we get this really cool look at this villain running away from Batman from his perspective. So immediately he falls backwards out of the alley as Batman approaches him. He then runs away back through the city streets, stomping in puddles, looking up into the air and seeing Batman in the sky on the rooftops above still chasing him. He then turns and heads down another alleyway, one leading to the Rookery, before he stops himself before saying, "No. No, not there." Batman then ties his rope around him from above and pulls him up into the air. And once he has him face to face, he asks, "You stopped running right at the edge of the Rookery. Why?" "Because, man, the Rookery's a hell of a lot scarier than you. They're real weird in there." "The Red Hood Gang. Is that what you're afraid of?" "What the hell are you talking about?" Batman then moves on further into the Rookery. Back at the scene of the original crime, he calls in Gordon. "Jim, you there? I'm in the middle of picking up your gift. You realize the headache you cause when you leave them hanging up like that? Anyway, I've just come from Sarika's lab. He might have found something. Not much, but he found burns." "Yeah, Jim, the body was in a fire." No, it was on the skull. Almost as though the head was exposed to acid of some kind. Sarika suspects pre-mortem. "Acid?" Batman asks. "Or bleach?" And then in a strange turn of events, he looks up at all the buildings surrounding him in the Rookery, saying, "I can see you watching me." And we see all these people in the Rookery standing in their windows looking down at him, and a vague, foggy face in the clouds. "Tell me where they are, and I will finally rid you of the Red Hood Gang," Batman says. Just then, all these people in their windows start closing up, refusing to talk. And Batman says, "Very well then, let the games begin." And I find that ending so weird because it kind of seems like Bruce is going off the deep end, like all the patterns and stuff like that, all the crime is kind of getting to his head a little bit, and he's going off the deep end, like he's not sure what to make of anything anymore, like he's trying to avoid seeing patterns that aren't there, but in trying to avoid it, he's actually diving headfirst into it. It's so bizarre, but I also think like maybe he knows exactly what he's looking at and we're just being led to believe that. Either way, such a bizarre case. I didn't think it could get any weirder than the Wound Man, but ironically, what started out so bizarre about that story, and I was like, what could the Wound Man possibly be? How can a guy like this survive? Actually turned out to be a pretty simple explanation and a pretty simple story at the end of it. It was just tragic. So maybe we'll see something similar here. I'm really interested to see if the Red Hood Gang, the original one apparently, still exists in this part of Gotham, or if it's something else. Very, very curious to see. Let me know your thoughts on this issue and this story at the beginning of this arc down in the comments below. Let me know if you want me to continue this here on the channel. I really, really love this series, love the creative team, and I love what they do with it. This arc is starting off strong, just like the last one did, so I'm excited to see what they do. But yeah, that is the video. Thank you for watching.